Steps to tying the FishHawk jig. Secure a number 2 Aberdeen jig hook pre-molded into a vise such that the sharp point is completely covered. This is done to prevent the thread from being cut by the point of the hook. Thread left and then right one time to prep the shank of the hook for the next step. Wrapping the shank with thread is to create a surface that the other materials can grip to. Snip the tail of the thread. Using crystal hair, tie 4 strands to the shank beginning at the throat, carefully wrapping the shank with thread, left and then right. Reverse your wrap once you've reached the same point as the previous step. Snip the crystal hair approximately 1 1/2 inches from the base of the throat. Notice how the hairs protrude straight back. Attach one color of marabou to the hook. Again using the left and then right threading motion. When picking out your marabou, use only the lower portion of the prime feather, as the upper barbed part will not create the proper action in the water. Snip off the excess marabou and line it up on the shank of the hook at the neck so that the tail of the marabou is equal with the tail of the crystal hair. You now see the threading motion left and then right. You now attach a second color in the same manner. Line up the second color along with the first at the neck and then thread left stopping at the same point and then thread right. Attach the first color again so that the first and the third application are on either side of the second. Notice you can eyeball the length of the marabou and re-snip if you have to so that the back is lined up. When finished, notice there is a clump of feather at the neck. You can wrap several times there to secure it. Now you will tie a double half hitch with your thread, circling once, slide the thread through your finger and ease it into the shank. Secure one more time and snip. You now attach pre-cut zonker tape with the backing peeled off, center at the bottom of the shank, and fold up to match at the top. Press down with your fingertips to adhere to the thread and marabou underneath. Use an instrument to securely adhere the zonker tape to the feathers. Removing from the vise, you must now contour cut the body to form the belly shape of the jig. Line the scissors up at the same angle as the head. Carefully snip once. Snip down towards the tail, flip around, and cut down towards the neck. Be careful not to snip the thread which tied at the neck and the tail. You should now have the belly shape of the minnow with no sharp edges on it. The minnow is now taking form, and we must apply a pearlescent colored body over the foil. Remove the core, and you will now put the mylar tubing over the head and the eyelet. Maneuver the pre-cut body material over the lead head and eye of the hook. Careful pushing and squeezing on the material will enable proper positioning without damaging the mylar. Notice the twisting of the mylar over the eye of the hook. Replace the unit back into the vise and pinch the mylar so it will not spin around on you. Using the pre-waxed monocord thread, tie off securely at the throat. Start out slow, being careful not to catch any of the strands of mylar at the neck. 5 or 6 wraps should be sufficient. It is then important to fold over the pigtail to prevent unraveling. Snip off the pigtail after it's been folded over. A couple more wraps and you're ready to tie a half hitch, 1, and then a double half hitch, 1, 2. After secure, snip the thread. Pull the body material gently backwards towards the tail. Keep the bottom of the mylar up against the body tape and wrap securely. The first wrap should sway to the right, so when pulled down will tighten the belly to the tubing. Again, you fold over the pigtail. A couple more wraps and snip off the pigtail. Tie off in the same way and snip the thread. Be sure that when wrapping your thread, you overlap in the same spot, not to make the thread lie there in too wide of an area. You're now ready to trim the frayed ends at the head using a razor, rolling the head in your fingertips. Apply firm pressure to the razor, being careful not to cut the threads which hold the mylar to the throat. Trim the tail feathers, pulling carefully away from the feathers so as not to lose very many feathers. A very fine tip scissor is suggested for this step. The foil body beneath the mylar should not be exposed. Make sure the keel is straight, the belly of the minnow. If it is not straight, it will not perform in the water the way it should. Using a marking pen supplied, paint from the throat to the tail, including the thread. The color suggested is one which will complement the tail feathers. Do not get paint on the feathers. While the paint is wet, be sure the feathers do not fly back and adhere to the body. The jig is almost complete, but it must now dry. When it is dry, finish coat with a clear gloss epoxy covering the mylar tubing. Cover completely so that the entire body and thread is covered. This will seal the unit for a long-lasting, durable life. After dry, the jig is ready for use.